25th at 7:30 p.m. Ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent a message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face, and after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday Night Monday. The Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Does a guy like Giannis fit onto that roster if you can make some of those changes?
I just don't see a KD pursuit as being realistic for the Knicks. But hey, if they can pull a rabbit out of a hat, as Leon Rose oftentimes can, I'd go after Giannis in a heartbeat. It's just, what type of package could they entice for the Milwaukee Bucks? And is it a 3 or 4 team trade? It gets a little bit tricky in that regard.
You see the Knicks there with a plus 340 price.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Big news in the world of sports. A couple of sports franchises looks like they could be exchanging hands. We'll get to the very latest of it, and the gentleman who broke the news on one of the sales joins us a little bit later in the show. Tonight, of course, could be the end of the NBA season. Oklahoma City takes on Indiana. We'll have a full preview of that as well. Latest in Major League Baseball, Matt Lutovsky joins us on the show, and yet another golf tournament coming up this week, which is currently underway, and Brady Kannon will join us to give us a preview of that as well. But let's get started with the sports betting story that has really dominated the headlines over the course of the year. This is, of course, the prediction markets, not sports betting, but these apps and websites that allow you to make predictions. One of the companies who you may be familiar with or not is called Kalshi, and there's a large coalition of 34 states led by Nevada's Attorney General and Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost, if I can get that out, recently filed a brief in the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit backing New Jersey counsel in the legal battle against prediction market companies. So this is not just New Jersey and not just Las Vegas, but a lot of different states seem to think that if you're going to be able to bet on sports, then you should have to pay a licensing fee and taxes and the like. We'll keep an eye on whether or not Kalshi could end up with FanDuel, could end up staying legal, could end up not being legal. Is a story just to follow throughout the summer. Meanwhile, looks like the Buss family is parting ways with the Los Angeles Lakers. All indications is that the Lakers are being sold to Mark Walter for a franchise valuation of approximately $10 billion. That's the largest sale ever for a United States professional sports team. Incredible. Of course, Walter already owns the majority share of the Dodgers. It would be the same with the Lakers. They've been owned by the Buss family since 1979. They bought the team for $67 million. It's now worth $10 billion. That is crazy. Over in the National Basketball Association tonight, the big question is, will the Pacers have their best player on the court? We're going to dive in. The Thunder are 6.5-point favorites to clinch the title. The total is 221 in the game. Oklahoma City's been favored in all of these games, and of course, they've lost a couple, so this is why there is a Game 6. So the big question tonight that everybody is wondering, will Tyrese Halliburton end up playing? As of right now, questionable, 50-50, iffy. We're hearing all of those terms being used. Let's hear from Halliburton himself.
There's some interest in your calf. Do you have any update for us there?
Nothing more than you've already seen. I practiced today, did what I could. I know Coach just told you guys what the process will be tomorrow for me to play, and yeah, we're just taking it from there.
Are you dealing with the strain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tim, here front.
Tyrese, obviously you want to play. Everybody always wants to play. And it is the finals, which only makes you want to play more. How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation? Or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, you're asking me, so I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm going to do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is. But, I mean, I think the answer to that is dependent on who you ask.
I think right now the key is trying to figure out who will step up if Halliburton isn't playing tonight. That's the sports betting operation that we're going to have to dive into later. Scott Farrell will have a preview on Coast to Coast. What is the impact of Halliburton not playing? That's obvious. The Pacers probably going to end up being more than 6.5-point underdogs. Mark Daigneault says don't underestimate an all-star like Halliburton not playing tonight.
Halliburton's a great player. One thing we know is you don't underestimate great players. So in the case that he plays, we're expecting his best punch. Indiana's a great team. We don't underestimate great teams. So in either case, whether he plays or not, we're expecting Indiana's best punch, especially at home. And so we'll be prepared for the best punch from both him and the team.
Back left. Mark, you've talked about uncommon maturity all year with this team. In what ways has Kaysen showed you that uncommon maturity in this series leading up to Game 5?
Yeah, he's the man. You know, I thought he did a good job in his minutes in the first couple games. I didn't think he shot the ball well, obviously, so that can be loud, but it had the desired effect in terms of playing him the way we did on transition defense and on perimeter point of attack. And despite the shooting, and he was in the starting lineup, we moved him out of the starting lineup, he just comes out with great confidence in Game 5 and steps into those shots and makes big plays, and was also incredibly impactful defensively, which is critical against this team. So we're going to need him again tomorrow. You know, we're going to need everybody.
Did not expect our headlines to be dominated by two sports franchises potentially being sold. Just mentioned the first in the Lakers. Now let's get to the Tampa Bay Rays. Sportico yesterday reported that they're in advanced talks to sell the club to a group that's led by a Jacksonville, Florida investor who plans on keeping the team in the Bay Area. The letter of intent is there, and the price is approximately $1.7 billion. There are other clubs up for sale in Major League Baseball as well. We will talk to Kirk Badenhausen a little bit later in the show about which teams could potentially be on the move next. In terms of Major League Baseball, boy, the Los Angeles Dodgers all of a sudden have the number of the San Diego Padres. Hasn't been like that in the past. What a home run last night for Will Smith. Pinch hit home run in the ninth. Dodgers beat the Padres 4-3. Not only did they get the home run, but also some great pitching performances as well. Here's manager Dave Roberts on the victory.
I think it's great. You know, tonight was obviously we won a big league ball game, but you know, you look at the growth of two young pitchers and what they did against a very formidable ball club, and also Dalton, you know, being the catcher back there with the fingers, and I thought it was a big night for him as well. And so just kind of looking beyond and the experience that these guys are gaining and how they're coming out of it, certainly a great experience.
This series, you've really had to work magic with the pitching. You've been real short maneuvering, and now you're up 3-0 on these guys. How gratifying for you to be able to do what you've done with that staff?
It's great, and I think it just speaks to the trust that they have in me and the coaches and our decision making. And essentially the first 3 games have been bullpen games, you know, and you're trying to kind of piece together innings and prevent runs. And to those guys' credit, you know, Bardo and the pen and Mark and Danny and Connor, getting these guys prepared on the game planning, because, you know, coming into whether it's San Francisco series and this series, wasn't a whole lot of margin for innings. And so to be able to kind of prevent runs, and the offense scored when they needed to, and to be where in a good spot, and we got Yamamoto going tomorrow, who's due for a good one.
Plenty of afternoon baseball in Major League Baseball today. Matt Lutovsky will join us for a preview coming up. Let's get back to last night's game. Boy, Chris Sale, fantastic last night for the Atlanta Braves. 8 2/3, almost finished the game. 5 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts. They dominated the Mets, did the Braves. Maybe the Braves are sneaking back in this thing. They win by a final of 5-0. The Yankees continue to struggle. They finally scored a run last night, but they did lose as the Angels win 3-2. Anthony Volpe with a key error in the game last night. Jazz Chisholm made a home run to break that scoreless streak. Okay, over to the National Football League. We've got a retirement and unfortunate speeding ticket coming for Shedeur Sanders of the Cleveland Browns, driving 101 on the highway. Shedeur, slow down, man. 101 miles an hour. That's not good. All right, former Jets, Ravens, Pro Bowl running back C.J. Mosley decided to retire. He's leaving the NFL after making the Pro Bowl 5 times. And also, in case you missed it, a little bit over a day ago, Jair Alexander, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, signs a 1-year contract to play with the Baltimore Ravens. He, of course, has a buddy named Lamar Jackson. You may have heard of him. He's on the Ravens, too. All right, coming up next, we review the Major League Baseball schedule from last night. Padres, Dodgers, Guardians, Giants, Braves, and Mets. We'll also take a look at whether or not the Tampa Bay Rays, who could be selling their team, could also be headed toward the postseason this year. Stay tuned on that. We'll be back with more NewsWire right after this.
Here we go at Oakmont. Let's start with the course. What do we know about this course? How long is the rough, and does course history come into effect for you this week?
The U.S. Open has always been billed as the most difficult test of golf there is on the planet. And I tell you what, it's often labeled as the most difficult golf course in the world is Oakmont.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
We don't want you playing here. Can you move positions? Do something else. He starts the season like 0 for 150, it felt like, and finally finds himself in a groove at the plate, hitting 272. 15 home runs on the season? Now he's shipped to San Francisco.
What is management going to do? Nobody who's paying you $313.5 million is going to hear anything from you. They'll figure out a way to get rid of you, and that's exactly what they did.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say, yeah, I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring in Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News with the latest in Major League Baseball, Matt. And boy, these sales of teams are stealing the headlines these days, but we'll get to the Rays here in just a minute. But first, let's talk about a team that's not going to be sold ever, the most profitable team in baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Man, I mean, Matt, the Padres, through the years, have kind of had their number. Remember that? It was like the Dodgers, they're really good, but they can't get through the Padres. I mean, they win the World Series, and here they are dominating them in the regular season. I mean, it just comes down to the fact, man, I think like the Dodgers just too tough, right? Like adding these pieces and pieces and pieces every year. I mean, Padres have done their best, but they're just not as good enough to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at. It's just too much offense. They just can. They always have a bat. They can always bring someone up. We saw that last night, and they're just relentless with it. And it's tough to get through it. And the Padres obviously are dealing with the injury to their rotation, and they just this last stretch. I think we talked about it last week, looking at the Dodgers, and it was 10 upcoming games against the Padres and Giants, and they got a real chance to finish that stretch 8-2. Momentum's a real thing, and they got it all right now. And they're starting to put a little distance between them and those other teams. And while both the Padres and Giants could make the playoffs, it's starting to feel like the Dodgers are finding their groove and are in really good shape in the NL West. And like you said, when the team that was supposed to be the one that gave it the most problems is now a team that they're just rolling through on a nightly basis, that's got to be a worry for the rest of the division, and certainly for the Padres, who just have to be wondering what can they do to try to keep pace.
Yeah, I don't know, Matt. Maybe we can find some suggestions. None come to mind at the moment here. All right. Cleveland takes care of the San Francisco Giants, and look, Guardians are not going away. We know this. They just manufacture players somehow, not common names. They end up playing in the All-Star game, and they end up going far every year. I mean, that's the thing, Matt. It's like it's almost not fair anymore. Like, I think Cleveland's going to be good, going to have a shot at the postseason, and then they're going to run into one of these huge payroll teams and probably lose in the postseason. Hate to say that, but it's just true.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that's their MO. They have such a good, bullpen, it feels like every year. And that allows them where if they just get decent starts, they're going to be able to scratch together enough runs. Can they just hold it together? And that's what we've seen the last couple nights. Pretty good games against San Francisco, who obviously is celebrating getting a big bat in their lineup, but it hasn't quite come through yet in these first couple games with Devers in there. But yeah, Cleveland's a tough team, and they're always going to play, everyone tough. But like you said, can they get over that hump? Can they get over the big payroll teams? That remains to be seen. I'm going to be very curious to see if they do anything at the deadline to try to bring someone in to help them do that. But right now, they're just a really solid team. I think they're going to make the playoffs too. It's tough that they're in the division with probably the best team in baseball, but nonetheless, they're still right there for the postseason. And for the Giants, I think, it's one of those things where they just kind of got to try to find that offense. I mean, that's what they made the deal for. Hopefully it'll come around here for them. But, big one this weekend for them against the Dodgers. So, yeah, I mean, two teams sort of going in different directions a little bit right now, certainly in the series they're playing. So it'll be real interesting to see how that one finishes out.
Braves are going to make a run at some point, right, Matt? Like, I don't know if it's going to be enough to get them in, but they're going to make a run. They're too talented. Seems like some momentum is being picked up here a little bit. Hopefully, Matt, for the Braves' sake, they don't have to play one-run games. They're not winning any of those, apparently. But Chris Sale didn't even make it close yesterday. I know he struggled a little in April, but since then he's been great. 5-0. Braves beat the Mets yesterday. A lot of work to do here in this National League, especially beating all those NL West teams out. I guess, Matt, they should be fortunate that the NL Central doesn't appear to be formidable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've talked about this before, where it's just once they get healthy, once they get going, this is a team you can't count out. And they really put themselves in a big hole, started to climb out of it, and then sort of dug the hole back again. And now they're trying to climb out again. So they have the talent to do it. The Mets are so far up in front of them right now. It doesn't feel like they can make that run at the division, but just trying to get into the postseason, is that possible? I certainly think it is. I mean, we're seeing what they can do with the talent they have against some upper tier teams, like we're seeing in the series they're playing right now. They have multiple Cy Young, caliber pitchers, obviously a great lineup. They have the tools needed, and I think we're going to see a good summer for them, and they are going to make a legitimate run, and they're one of those teams that, man, if they make it to the postseason, I don't think anyone wants to see them. So that's the kind of team, to me, that's the most exciting to watch at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so one other game, wacky game to recap last night. Tampa Bay and Baltimore. Boy, the Orioles, we just got to wave the white flag at this point, man. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, bad luck, not playing well, everything going wrong. The Rays are playing good again. How many times? I mean, has there been more than like a or two out of the last 10 where we could say that Tampa Bay's out of it? 7-3 in their last 10, scoring runs at will, and down 8-0, coming back to win, man. This is not a team that I want to mess with this summer.
No, it's funny what you said about Cleveland earlier. That's kind of how I feel about Tampa too, where they just find a way. They just find players, and you look at the lineup sometimes and think, well, I don't think this team is that good. And then here they are, scratching out runs, scratching out wins. We know they're in a very odd situation this year where they're playing their, how many games they have on the road going forward, how many games they've played in their makeshift home right now, and they're still getting it done. And I think that division obviously has not been what people expected going into the year, other than I guess the Yankees being good. But you look, even Toronto's playing some good ball, so things are a little topsy turvy there. And I think that just makes it more interesting. And as far as the Rays, yeah, they're one of these teams that just finds a way to do it. They kind of have a culture, they have a system, and it's working out again for them. And it's been impressive to watch. And I think that they can scratch runs, they can piece it together with their bullpen games, pretty solid starting unit. I don't know how much they can do around the deadline to improve their team, but I just think with what they have right now, it's a team that's going to be a tough out for anyone again. And yeah, good shot at once again sneaking into the postseason. I don't know if they can make any noise there, but
Right.
that's not what it's all about sometimes for every single team.
No, definitely not for the Rays. It will be interesting, I will say. Once this month ends, basically all their games are on the road the rest of the year. So we'll see if that's a factor in what's going on. All right, great stuff as always. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for coming on. We'll catch up again next week.
I'd appreciate it.
All right, Kurt Badenhausen's up next. The Tampa Bay Rays appear to be being sold by the Sternberg family. What's next in Tampa, St. Pete, or elsewhere? They broke the story for Portico next, and we'll have them.
Here we go at Oakmont. Let's start with the course. What do we know about this course? How long is the rough, and does course history come into effect for you this week?
The U.S. Open has always been billed as the most difficult test of golf there is on the planet. And I tell you what, it's often labeled as the most difficult golf course in the world is Oakmont.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
We don't want you playing here. Can you move positions? Do something else. He starts the season like 0 for 150, it felt like, and finally finds himself in a groove at the plate, hitting 272. 15 home runs on the season? Now he's shipped to San Francisco.
What is management going to do? Nobody who's paying you $313.5 million is going to hear anything from you. They'll figure out a way to get rid of you, and that's exactly what they did.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say, yeah, I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Big story broke yesterday. The Tampa Bay Rays appear to be headed for a sale. First to break the story from Sportico, sports business reporter Kurt Badenhausen joins us now here on the show. And Kurt, wow, big story in baseball yesterday. I think it would have been the top one had the Lakers story not broken later in the day. It's bad timing, I guess, for that. But thanks again for coming on NewsWire. It's great to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I think that it was obvious that the Rays had all kinds of problems finding a new ballpark whether it was in St. Pete or whether it was Tampa Bay, Stu Sternberg. I think you take a look at his track record in terms of success. The club was very successful. But what do you make of this price tag here, reportedly, of $1.7 billion for a club that right now technically doesn't even have a home ballpark?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And just to put a point on the success, since the start of 2008, the Rays have the third most wins in Major League Baseball, behind only the big market, free spending Los Angeles Dodgers and New York Yankees. So they have done a lot on a little payroll. So the price tag is interesting. It's a big number. And we value the team at $1.35 billion, which is how we see the team in its current situation, playing basically without a long-term solution for a home. But 1.7 makes sense if there is a pathway to a new stadium. And so we don't see a lot of teams sold in Major League Baseball. I mean, if you go back to 2020, Steve Cohen bought the New York Mets for $2.4 billion. The only team sold since then was the Orioles last year, also for around $1.7 billion. So they are in advanced talks. There's a letter of intent, which is a legal document where they are moving forward. After our story broke, the Rays put out a statement, said they're in exclusive talks with this group. And so again, there is not a purchase agreement there. And we've seen Stu Sternberg walk down this road before. I don't think he's gone this far down the road and then backed away with previous groups. But this is big for the region and for Major League Baseball as a whole.
So Kurt, I think the biggest question that everybody has is where will the Rays play with a new ownership group? I mean, that is the big elephant in the room at this point. My understanding and reading is that the hope is to have the team remain in Florida. I know the new group is potentially from Jacksonville, Florida, but my understanding is that the team would stay in the Bay Area. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the fact that Zalupski is from Jacksonville and his company is based in Jacksonville set off some red flags for fans, judging by my Twitter feed yesterday with lots of comments. But yes, Major League Baseball ideally wants this to work in Tampa. It's a bigger market. It's a more vibrant market. It's where the Rays have built, and it's Tampa, St. Petersburg, I should say. And ideally, Major League Baseball does not like to move franchises. We've seen what's happened with the Athletics and the problem and just just how that has unfolded in a very bad way, moving from Oakland to Sacramento and ultimately Las Vegas. And so Major League Baseball doesn't want it. They want a stadium situation to work in Tampa. That is their priority.
Kurt, I would guess the rising tide is going to rise the ships as well here, right? Like, I mean, there's got to be other franchises now in Major League Baseball looking at this price tag number thinking, if the Rays are 1.7, what are we worth?
Yeah, well, we got another team on the market right now. Minnesota Twins hired a banker in the fall to sell the club, and it's been a very slow process. The Los Angeles Angels hired a banker. Washington Nationals had hired a banker. Both pulled them off the market when they couldn't get a deal done. Baseball's in a very tricky situation, though, over the next 2 years. Because you got a labor deal that's coming up. A lot of people, almost everybody's expecting a lockout. Whether it impacts games or not, we don't know. And there is also the transition, the broadcast agreements. And that is making for some rocky times and strife between big market and small market clubs.
Yeah. So, Kurt, do you see in, like, let's say the next 6 months to a year, another club being sold, or do you think that this is probably the only one for 2025?
I don't think you're going to suddenly see people rush to sell their club again. Not Major League Baseball. There's not a lot of turnover. The Chicago White Sox have just reached an agreement to transition the team to Justin Ishbia. That's a long-term transition, but I don't think you see people flood the market again. The Twins sale process has been relatively slow. So, but Tampa's a great market if you can figure out the stadium.
Thanks again for coming on the show, Kurt. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.
Here we go at Oakmont. Let's start with the course. What do we know about this course? How long is the rough, and does course history come into effect for you this week?
The U.S. Open has always been billed as the most difficult test of golf there is on the planet. And I tell you what, it's often labeled as the most difficult golf course in the world is Oakmont.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
We don't want you playing here. Can you move positions? Do something else. He starts the season like 0 for 150, it felt like, and finally finds himself in a groove at the plate, hitting 272. 15 home runs on the season? Now he's shipped to San Francisco.
What is management going to do? Nobody who's paying you $313.5 million is going to hear anything from you. They'll figure out a way to get rid of you, and that's exactly what they did.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches. And it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't. But, yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
Well, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm hoping that I get to see Dexter Henry next week talking some NBA, but that's going to require Indiana winning tonight. Let's bring him in as the NBA season has come to a crescendo, as they say. Dexter, the Indiana Pacers are at home. I hope this is a competitive game at the very least, but this series is starting to shift toward the Thunder. As we know, the last 2 games, Thunder win by 7, and then they win by 11. And now there is some concern with the Pacers' best player, Tyrese Halliburton, not just not being 100%, but may not even be able to play tonight. What do you make of the series at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's what makes tonight so tough to look at for the bettors out there from a betting standpoint. It's going to be really tough because there's a lot of uncertainty around Tyrese Halliburton, and it wouldn't shock me to see that line, which is at 6.5, move up. In favor of the Thunder with more points there. It wouldn't shock me. Look, Tyrese Halliburton says he's going to try to give it a go. He says he's going to be cautious and smart about this. Rick Carlisle said the same thing yesterday, but you saw how that affected the Pacers in the last game. Now, there's all that talk about could they have played TJ McConnell down the stretch, but Tyrese Halliburton, you could tell, was compromised. He was not aggressive in terms of attacking the basket. The Pacers are going to need that. We also know how good he is at pushing the pace. No pun intended there. Pacers are going to need that. So it's really tough. Look, I think the key in this, one of the keys in this game, if you're Indiana, if you get the performances they did from some other guys, and they're going to need other guys to step up. Nembhard has to be better. Mathurin's going to have to be better tonight in this game 6. But if you don't have it from Halliburton and he gives it a go, then you got to let McConnell run the show. McConnell was really good, especially in the third quarter the other night. So you got to let him run the show. You got to figure out a way to stop Jalen Williams. He has a bunch of things you have to do, but I think it's really going to be key what Tyrese Halliburton can or cannot do and how Rick Carlisle is able to adjust from that here in this game 6 if they want to stay alive.
Yeah, it should be competitive, I think. I mean, Indiana has surprised us several times throughout the series, and hopefully they'll surprise one more time. But in terms of props, Dexter, going into tonight, this is the tricky part. What do you do? If Halliburton plays, then all of these props that we're going to show now are probably, not so valuable on the over. But at the same time, you got to hedge your bets, as they say, because Pascal Siakam, this guy could easily have 30 points regardless of Halliburton playing or not. But very tricky props, I would say, tonight on the side of the Pacers, in particular, guys like Turner and Matherin. I mean, if Halliburton doesn't play, let me just pound those overs and assume they're going to get to 105, 110 points. But if not, I may have lost my money before the game even tipped.
Yeah, out of all the ones on the screen right now, I love the TJ McConnell one just because of where his confidence was coming off of game 5. And you would think even if Halliburton does play, and even if they handle this smartly, and it's really risky with the calf, we saw what happened with Kevin Durant 6 years ago in the 2019 finals. You want to be you want to be safe with that because it's so risky. Why I like McConnell is you think even if they play it safe with Halliburton, he's not going to be a 30, 35-minute player likely tonight. So McConnell should have opportunities, and he's confident right now against this OKC defense. So his line of 10.5 points, I like that. I don't mind Siakam because he should get a little bit more of the load there. But to your point, Craig, so many of the other guys really feed off of Halliburton. And how they play is so dependent on Halliburton and his amazing passing ability. So that's why a lot of the rest of those are a stay away from me. Could I see Andrew Nembhard having a better game here? Sure. But I think he's a guy who can create his own shot and get it off, but he's not a guy who can run the offense. That's where McConnell's better. But then you also have to worry about, on the other end, how much with lack of size does that hurt the Pacers? And Nembhard, who's a solid defender, but smaller, will get attacked and maybe be in foul trouble. So those are all the things to keep an eye on. I'd maybe play the McConnell over 10.5 points, Siakam over 21.5 points. I like those. I don't love them because there's just too much unknown. So bet cautiously is what I would say.
Can I tempt you with a 13-1 on Indiana to win the championship on FanDuel? I mean, that's where it is.
I mean, look, if you believe in this, fine. I think the safer bet for you and the better bet is that this goes 7. I'd like to see this go 7. I think there'll be a lot of people rooting for it to go 7. Yeah, that plus 300 there is tantalizing. The 13-1 odds for them to win it. It's tough. That's just such a long shot, especially when you don't know the health of Halliburton. But listen, can they make this competitive, like you said, Craig? And can this go 7? Yes, I definitely think so. I think they have to have a good start to this game. I think they have to get the crowd involved in this game and put a little bit of doubt in OKC, and a lot of it is going to be with just how Halliburton looks and what he can give them. So that pushing them to go 7, pushing the series to go 7, I like that bet. Betting the 13-1. That's a bit. If you want to sprinkle a couple dollars down in that, go ahead. But I don't like the chances with Halliburton's health.
All right, let's get to the Los Angeles Lakers' big news yesterday. Mark Walter, majority owner of the Dodgers. Dexter is going to end up being majority owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. It sounds like the Buss family is still going to have a non-controllable piece so they can continue to make money. $10 billion, Dexter. I mean, this is insane, right? Like, this is not a team. This is a brand. This is like their own world here with the Lakers. Owning a sports franchise, Dexter, if you could afford it, always seems to be profitable.
Yeah, if you can afford it, it absolutely does. I think the shocking thing for me, Craig, to some degree, not that the Lakers valuation is at $10 billion. Maybe you didn't I knew it would be higher than the Celtics. And I don't think anybody saw the Lakers selling anytime soon. But even the Athletic reported the value could possibly even be up to $12 billion, which is just amazing. Almost double. The Celtics just went for $6.1 billion. So it's just truly amazing. The Buss family, one of the last family ownership groups, along with the Simon family, Herb Simon, is the owner of the Pacers in the league right now. So you're seeing less of those family-owned teams. I mean, really throughout sports. And I think that's the thing. The Lakers are such an iconic brand. They are now no longer with family ownership. You wonder about teams even in another sport. You wonder about the Yankees. And, when will come today, maybe they're now owned by the Steinbrenners. These are things you have to think about with this. But it's huge for the Lakers because now they have even more finances behind them. They had, I believe, the richest TV deal in the NBA with Spectrum out there in LA, but now they'll have more finances behind them. But this is why I also put a little caution to this, Craig. Finances don't always equate to winning. We've seen what's happened with the Suns, right? All it counts is that your ownership, right, doesn't have to necessarily care as much about the luxury tax. They still have to worry about the second apron and other things, but it can help a franchise. It can add that influx of cash from certain owners can do a lot for a franchise. So this is huge for the Lakers. The fact that the valuation is huge, it's amazing. This was a stunning move nobody saw coming. But I wonder what this means for other sports franchises, the few that are left in this country that are family owned.
Yeah, it is incredible, and you're right. You make a good point here. I mean, honestly, Dexter, with a salary cap in sports, it doesn't guarantee winning. You have to be smart with the money that you're allowed to spend. I mean, that's just the bottom line in the NFL, in the NBA. Baseball, a little bit different. All right, now, can the Lakers ever get a center here, though? It seems like they've been trying now for a couple of years.
They're going to try this offseason. I think that's priority number one. You know, you look at some of the names on this list: Nick Claxton, Walker Kessler, Brooke Lopez, Clint Capella. Those are guys. I think the most gettable out of them will be Clint Capella because of his expiring salary. Nick Claxton is a get to because the Nets are going to be a franchise. And from what I'm hearing from people around the Nets, they're going to be looking to be aggressive in either taking on bad contracts with the salary space they have or sending out some players that are of value to for other people to get draft picks. So Nick Claxton is definitely a guy too. And then Walker Kessler, I'm just not sure what they want to do in Utah, but look at that. But I think Clint Capella, he might be one of the most likely to be moved. A veteran guy, come in, a rim runner, play with LeBron and Luka Doncic. He's a guy to be moved. So the Lakers, they know they need a center. They know what they have to do. And now with this new ownership sale, you know, I don't think it's going to change anything, but I think they're going to be aggressive.
All right, Dexter, great to catch up with you here on NewsWire. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime. Thank you, man.
All right. Hope we see Dexter next week recapping Game 7. Maybe. We know Brady Cannon's coming up next. Travelers Championship this weekend. We'll put a bow on the U.S. Open as well. Don't go away.
19.5 wins. I told you to go under, and it's by far the best bet I have recommended on this network in 4 years. They can't get out of their own way. And now Sloot is out for the year. Let's hope Sloot gets back because I respect the hell out of Sloot, and I want her to go out on her own terms. Hopefully we'll have her back for the 26th season.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling there is no chance they're going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just kidding.
They're still not expected to have over 8.5 wins. They're still not expected to have a winning record. Now, I know things could change for the next 24 hours. I get that. But everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to sign with him. He's going to sign with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What?
How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Brady Kannon is with us, breaking down the latest on the PGA Tour. Travelers Championship, of course, underway just before tea time. Scotty Scheffler was the favorite. We'll get to him in a minute. But first, Brady, let's recap what we saw at the U.S. Open. And, Brady sent a text, through the weekend saying, hey, Adam Scott is somebody I like. I'm like, okay, so this is the guy to watch. Meanwhile, here comes Adam Scott, final day. I mean, Brady, everybody just falling all over themselves in that rough, and then the intermediate rough, and then the heavy rough. I mean, I don't even know what they call it there. It was just so disastrous for so many players. But J.J. Spawn had an iconic putt to win, and I think that will live forever on the PGA Tour. Really great finish.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he kind of saved the tournament a little bit. He saved the day anyway. I thought the first 3 days, Oakmont was the star. I thought the U.S. Open was brilliant. I thought it wasn't tricked up, it wasn't quirky, it wasn't unfair. And at the same time, it was extremely difficult. And we got to see, Scotty Scheffler actually find the rough and make mistakes. It really tested these players, I think, as much as we've ever seen. But again, I didn't feel it was unfair. You saw John Rahm, you saw Adam Scott. These guys that were striping it down the middle of the fairway were playing really well and were making pars. And that's what the U.S. Open is. Unfortunately, Mother Nature got involved on Sunday and kind of spoiled things. I felt, like our guy Adam Scott in the final pairing. I thought he had a great shot, and I think it really got to Sam Burns, and it was almost more survival at that point. And JJ Spawn, God bless him. I mean, he had so many bad breaks in the front nine, and then redemption on the back nine, and again that big putt made it climactic, because otherwise it felt like what was such a great tournament kind of got spoiled there with the weather down the stretch.
So now we have the Travelers Championship coming up this weekend, and certainly it's underway already. And I think the odds are more or less stable here because some of the bigger names have not yet teed off. In fact, I see among the leaders thus far a few names I don't recognize, and then I see Victor Hovland, who had a nice week last week at the U.S. Open. So here are the odds to win. Scotty Scheffler 3-1, Rory McIlroy at 12, Xander 16-1, Morikawa 18-1, Cantlay 22, and Oberg at 25. Any of those names at the top interest you? I know we're going to get to some of the long shots that you have.
Yeah, Xander Schauffele almost made my card this week, Craig. I really think he's just about ready to win again. He had a very good U.S. Open, finished 12th. He's just a machine. I think he's finished top 15 at the U.S. Open maybe every single time he's played the U.S. Open in his career. Just always plays that tournament very, very well. And he's won this tournament, the Travelers, a couple of years ago. I didn't end up going with him, but of the short shots, he was the one I liked the most. You mentioned Victor Hovland, now tied for the lead at 4 under par early on. He's only through 7 holes, already 4 under through 7 holes. Word to the wise here, though, Victor Hovland is the #1 liability at BetMGM. So he was a very popular pick this week. And, that's always a bit of a red flag for me. These books, these sports books don't make a profit year in and year out because the biggest liability gets them. Sometimes it does, but I worry about that. And I didn't really like Hovland. Was brilliant at times last week, and then gosh, he couldn't even buy a putt. He was so volatile, and so a lot of people thought that would carry over, and it looks like it has so far, but I'm a little leery of Victor this week.
Fair enough. Let's get to some of the long shots, and certainly Robert McIntyre is a name everyone was familiar with after last week. Any other names here? 40, 50-1, any dart throws for you at the Travelers?
Yeah, I've got 3 guys that have yet to tee off. Siwoo Kim, Brian Harmon, and Matt Fitzpatrick. They have all done very, very well on Pete Dye designs. Siwoo Kim, of course, has won the Players' Championship. Brian Harmon has finished top 10 here at the Travelers 7 times. And Matt Fitzpatrick also has done very well on Dye design. So that was certainly part of my handicap there. McIntyre and Davis Thompson are my other 2 plays. And yeah, I pretty much went all long bombs this week. I just found one reason or another to poke a hole in the favorites at the top of the board. We'll see how it pans out. Last year I had Tom Kim at 50-1. He went all the way to a playoff and ended up losing to Scheffler. I'll take that again. If I can get a long bomb all the way to a playoff, that's not a bad spot to be. But McIntyre was one. I tried to stay away from some of the guys that were really in the gauntlet down the stretch last week at the U.S. Open. I felt that was probably mentally exhausting. And, McIntyre almost won the darn thing, but he was sitting there in the clubhouse for 2 hours. He finished much earlier before he was really through that tough stuff down the stretch. So I thought he might be able to carry some momentum over this week. We'll see.
All right. Well, Brady, here is my big question for you. A year from now, we're talking about the U.S. Open again. Do you think that the frustration that the players showed this past week forces the hand of the PGA Tour to make these courses more playable? Or is this, I mean, look, this has been going on for years. I get that, and nothing has changed. Will that remain? It felt like this hit a crescendo this past weekend.
Yeah, like I say, I think the first 3 days were great. I thought it was a perfect balance of difficulty and fairness. And then Mother Nature got involved, and that made it really difficult. Next year we're at Shinnecock Hills in New York. We've had a few championships there in the last 25, 30 years. One year, if you recall, it absolutely crossed the line and got out of hand, where the greens were, baked out. They were like tabletops. They were having to water them during the middle of the tournament. And that was really ugly and a bad look for the USGA. I hope we get something that is similar to what we saw at Oakmont for the first 3 days, where it really is the ultimate test, but again, is not over the top and unfair. And I think it feels like the USGA is going back to that direction. The old US Open that you and I grew up with, Craig, where you got to drive it straight, and if you get offline, you're in trouble. We've had a few bad US Opens in recent years, but I liked where they're headed this year, certainly for the first part of it, and hopefully that continues.
Brady, great catching up with you here on NewsWire. Have a great weekend.
You too, my friend. Thank you.
Coming up next, partying continues for the Florida Panthers, champions of the world in the National Hockey League. But are they doing their best to protect the Stanley Cup? Not so much. How's that for you next?
Their team total is 19.5 wins. I told you to go under, and it's by far the best bet I have recommended on this network in 4 years. They can't get out of their own way. And now Sloot is out for the year. Let's hope Sloot gets back, because I respect the hell out of Sloot, and I want her to go out on her own terms. Hopefully we'll have her back for the 26th season.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling there is no chance they're going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just kidding.
They're still not expected to have over 8.5 wins. They're still not expected to have a winning record. Now, I know things could change for the next 24 hours. I get that. But everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to sign with him. He's going to sign with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mitch. Boy, the Stanley Cup partying continues in Sunrise and Fort Lauderdale, with the Florida Panthers winning it all. Also, the National Football League is getting ready to unveil training camp times, which, believe it or not, is 1 month away. And, of course, we've got a whole lot more as we wrap up this Thursday edition of NewsWire with some last licks. Well, as expected, the Florida Panthers are partying and having the time of their life now that they have won their second consecutive Stanley Cup championship. And for the second year in a row, a lot of the partying is being done in Fort Lauderdale on the beach at a place called Elbow Room. A lot of fun, a lot of drinking, but a little bit of carelessness. I mean, how does this even happen here? In fact, through all the years, we've seen the Stanley Cup go in the ocean and drinking out of it, and but they've only had it for 2 days, and it's already dented and, and damaged. How is this possible? And what do they do about this? Do they make a new Stanley Cup? Like, how does this even work? Is this the original? Has there ever been a replica? This looks like something that needs to be repaired. They've damaged the Stanley Cup. It is dented at the top. So maybe this was dropped somewhere. I'm not really sure. But I look, I'm all for having fun with this thing, but isn't there going to be another team eventually that's going to win the championship, not named the Panthers, and are going to have to take the cup? I guess when they like muck it all up, as they say, they probably clean it or do whatever they do. But I don't know how you fix this one. Completely broken, completely dented, slanted. All right, National Football League is 77 days away. And here on SportsGrid, boy, are we excited, right? Football drives a lot of our content, drives the bus here. College football, coming up here soon too, and less than 2 months away. In fact, training camp opening all up. I think I saw the Ravens rookies reporting in less than a month. That's one of the first teams that I think that I saw. Hey, look, it can't get here soon enough. I think it's fun for me because I'm a baseball guy at heart. So for me, it's like I can wait. It doesn't matter to me. But July 31st is the Detroit Lions and Los Angeles Chargers game. That's the first game, and I don't ever remember the Hall of Fame game starting before August. It starts this year in July. We are about 10 days away from the month of July. So yes, football is back here next month, and I'm sure we'll bring in back Adam Kaplan, our coverage, and everything else a couple weeks from now, probably going full board. Speaking of full board on college and pro, how about full board and pay? The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders with a special on Netflix. You may have seen this or not. They've gotten a huge raise. Boy, through the years, I wasn't really sure how much they were getting paid, and they haven't really revealed it, but they said they got a raise of about 300 to 400% based off the amount of viewership that they had on their Netflix special. Now, all these years of being Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, they couldn't get a raise. Now, all of a sudden, it gets streaming, and they start making more money. Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, I would probably say the cheerleaders from Dallas are underpaid through the years. Fair to say? But either way, you can catch that special on Netflix. Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders finally making some bank. College athletes, NIL deals, Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. We talk a lot of money here on the show. $1.7 billion for the Tampa Bay Rays. They don't even have a building. That's crazy stuff. $1.7 billion. What is your favorite team in baseball worth if the Rays, no offense, are worth $1.7 billion? I got no idea. All right, that'll do it for our show today. And want to let you know that coming up next is Smiley Kaufman with the latest in the Travelers Championship. That's followed by Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast. Hopefully you got a chance to catch me there yesterday. I was on the show talking some baseball with Scott. He'll have a preview of tonight's NBA Finals, followed by Front Office Sports at 6 p.m., game time decisions from 6:30 to 8, leading right up until tip of Game 6 of the NBA Finals. In-game live game day has all of your betting coverage from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, and then Gabe wraps up the night. Maybe it'll be with a championship in Indianapolis tonight. We will see, where Oklahoma City is currently 6.5-point favorites. I got news for you. If you want to flip a coin on Halliburton not playing tonight, this line is probably going to go to 7. Maybe 7.5. If he does, probably right back down to where it was the last few days, which is 5.5 or 6. I think he's worth probably about 1.5 or 2 in the NBA. You can also download the SportsGrid app. Just take out your phone and scan this QR code, and this will give you the very latest news, notes, and information on all the sports betting options and all of the different programming that we have exclusively here on SportsGrid, streaming 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. And SportsGrid, of course, is my home here for NewsWire. That'll do it for the show. Thanks again to Brady Kannon for coming on. Thanks to Kurt for talking some Rays sale. Matt Lutovsky, as well as Dexter Henry from the New York Post. Our director is Luke and our producer is Frank. We'll come back and wrap up the week of NewsWire tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll see you then.